Let us talk about the introduction of dispute resolution and incident or crisis management. Course description. It deals with the study of the different mechanisms in dealing and resolving conflict or disputes. It includes the art of intervention through mediation and reconciliation between stakeholders and agencies tasked to carry out the endeavor. Likewise, the course includes the concept of crisis management and the proper procedure in handling the incident. Moreover, the study significantly provides mechanisms on how to adapt strategies in dealing with potential and actual crises which are being addressed by concerned agencies and authorities and the community. Dispute resolution involves bringing two or more discordant parties to clear understanding wherein their differences are ironed out. It points to every technique applied for settling disputes between entities. Or in other words, it refers to a number of processes that can be used to resolve a conflict, dispute, or claim, like for example, negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. Features of a good dispute resolution process. Negotiated outcome where the parties concerned resolve the issue themselves. Mediated outcome where an independent mediator helps the parties arrive at their own agreement. Conflict is a clash between individuals arising out of a difference in thought process, attitudes, understanding, interests, requirements, and even perceptions. It can result to a heated arguments, physical abuses, and definitely loss of peace and harmony. And it can actually change relationships. The word conflict comes from the Latin word confligere, which means to come together for a battle. There are also types of conflict. One, we have the intrapersonal conflict. It is the conflict humans face within themselves. Intrapersonal conflict is also known as intra-individual or intra-psychic conflict. This occurs when an organizational member is required to perform certain tasks and rules that do not match his or her expertise, interests, goals, and values. Next, we have interpersonal conflict. It refers to the manifestation of incompatibility, disagreement, or difference between two or more interacting individuals. There are also causes and consequences of interpersonal conflict, mistreatment, and discrimination. So this may result to interpersonal conflict. We have interpersonal conflicts that occur in the workplace. We have the struggles between at least two individuals who perceive interference, lack of cooperation, or lack of resources needed to perform their work. We also have men against society and men against nature. Men against society is a conflict between man and society. It occurs when a character disagrees with societal values, laws, or beliefs, or a character struggles against an issue affecting an entire community. We have example, being wrongly accused of something, or a group of students fight the school over a certain dress code. Men against nature is a struggle between a character and a force of nature such as fire, storm, earthquake, typhoon, and the like. So men against nature in short is a struggle to survive. Next, we have family conflict. It refers to active opposition between family members. Because of the nature of family relationships, it can take a wide variety of forms, including verbal, physical, sexual, financial, or psychological. There are examples of family conflict like sibling rivalry. So it is the product of jealousy, competition between brothers and sisters. Divorce is another one. It is the legal termination of a marriage. And lastly, child abuse. It happens when a parent or other adult causes serious physical or emotional harm to a child. Intergroup conflict takes place when a misunderstanding arises among different teams within an organization. This is due to varied sets of goals and interests of these different groups. In addition, competition also contributes for intergroup conflict to arise. Intrastate conflict is a violent conflict caused within a country fought by organized groups that aim to take power at the center or in a region or to change government policies. For example, we have civil wars and election campaigns. An intrastate conflict will produce war between organized groups to take control of a nation or region, a civil war to change government policies. In short, in intrastate conflict, violence occurs within a single state only. Interstate conflict involves violence between two or more states. Global conflict referred to conflicts between different nation states and conflicts between people and organizations in different nation states. Increasingly, however, it also applies to intergroup conflicts within one country when one group is fighting for independence or increased social, political, or economic power. Example, like what happened in Sudan, Iraq, okay, now that the US has largely left, and of course, Syria. Based on history, World War II was the most destructive global conflict. It began when Nazi Germany unleashed ferocious attacks across Europe, but it spread to the Soviet Union, China, and the United States. Cities were destroyed by air raids, the atom bomb was dropped on Japan, and 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. Based on the record, over 50 million soldiers and civilians died. Forms of conflict: mutiny is any overt act of disobedience or attack upon military, including naval authority, by two or more persons subject to such authority. Its purpose is to oppose, change, or overthrow an organization to which they were previously loyal. Insurgencies are movements to overthrow governments. It could be led by a religious, ethnic, or sectional group. Next, we have conflict theory. Conflict theory looks at society as a competition for limited resources. It sees society as being made up of individuals who must compete for social, political, and material resources, such as political power, leisure time, money, housing, and entertainment. Social structures and organizations, such as religious groups, governments, and corporations, reflect this competition in their inherent inequalities. Some individuals and organizations are able to obtain and keep more resources than others. These winners use their power and influence to maintain their positions of power in society and to suppress the advancement of other individuals and groups. Of the early founders of sociology, Karl Marx is most closely identified with this particular theory. Structural theory of conflict. This theory attempts to explain conflict as a product of the tension that arises when groups must compete for scarce resources. A scarcity of resources arises when the resources or means to fulfill an end are either limited or costly. The structural theory of conflict is a snapshot that describes the condition of a society, but it does not explain why conflict occurs within a society. Feminist theory often focuses on analyzing gender inequality. Themes often explored on feminist theory includes discrimination, objectification, especially sexual objectification, oppression, patriarchy, stereotyping, art history, and contemporary art, and aesthetics. Feminist theory help us understand and address unequal and oppressive gender relations. Critical race theory analyzes the role of race and racism in perpetuating social disparities between dominant and marginalized racial groups. Its purpose is to unearth what is taken for granted when analyzing race and privilege, as well as the profound patterns of exclusion that exist in the society. Post-structuralism identifies the influence of discourse in shaping reality, both perceptions of reality and the tangible reality that is perceived. We experience only partial aspects of the world, and some of what we experience is based on falsehoods and trends in the discourses we have learned. There are also types of resolution. Communicate means talking things out and explaining. People need to express thoughts and ideas tactfully. Second, negotiate. When two or more people want to work out conflict themselves, they might follow a set of steps. It requires skills and experience. Third, mediate. The opposing parties meet with a third party who will act as a mediator. Fourth, arbitrate is much more similar to a formal litigation where an arbitrator will act as a judge and hear out both sides. Fifth, we have litigate. When people can work out their conflict themselves, they may go to court and have a trial. They hire lawyers and go before a judge. And lastly, legislate or the law. To make something the law or a rule. Conflict Resolution Strategies by Thomas Gilman. Avoiding unassertive and uncooperative. In this strategy, you sidestep the conflict without trying to satisfy your concerns or those of your teammates. Competing, assertive and uncooperative. You try to satisfy your own concerns at your teammates' expense. Collaborating, assertive and cooperative. You try to find a win-win solution that completely satisfies both your concerns and your teammates' concern. Accommodating, Unassertive and cooperative. You attempt to satisfy your teammates' concern at the expense of your own. And lastly, compromising. Intermediate in both assertiveness and cooperativeness. You try to find an acceptable settlement that only partially satisfies your concerns and those of your teammates.